Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Fortnightly Frontier, where we discuss everything new and great in the development of Star Citizen and Squadron 42. I am your host, Darjanator, and with me is, as always, my co-host, Myre. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. I have a question for you, Myre. There's something different about you this time around. Did you get a haircut? Is that no, that's a stupid question. New hat? Or is it that, healthy glow associated with pregnant women and newly fledged Twitch partners?
It must be.
It must be that. So when is it due?
I have to say, Darj, that is probably the most awkward way you've ever entered one of these podcasts before. I was like,
I try my best, damn it.
But yeah, so I don't even know where to go from there.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
On whatever it is.
Congratulations, it's a sub button.
Oh. Yes. I need more beer.
Okay.
So, sup?
Nothing.
Sup? I have a topic that I want to discuss on this particular episode of ours. I just have no idea how to segue into it. Well, I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Well, we have been playing another game, a space game, massively multiplayer. Or is it just a massive space game?
Yeah.
And I was just wondering how it is that Star Citizen is going to tackle the whole massiveness of space.
Okay. Right, so I believe you're talking about, the other game you're talking about is Elite Dangerous, right?
That's the one.
Yeah, so basically you mean like with ED when you're traveling in places, like, it may be like a, oh wow, this place has a new name and like there might be like new resources, but like how are they going to make it so that in Star Citizen that that kind of experience isn't bland, right?
Yeah. Well, because they're not making it as huge as Elite Dangerous is. There will only be like 100. Well, if you take the numbers, just the raw numbers for the Star Citizen universe.
Yeah.
100 solar systems or star systems, each with, say, an average of 5 planets.
Right.
And then each planet has maybe 3 moons and 10 stations or something like that. You could equate that to a forest.
Okay.
A forest that has 100 trees. And each tree has 5 major branches. And each of those branches has like 3 or 4 smaller branches, And you could go to those and climb the trees and get on every branch, and it's fine. But it's still just 100 trees, like in a square of 10 by 10. Just bear with me.
I'm like, what? Okay, Tarzan with your trees.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, if you apply those same sort of numbers to the forest, it's still a tiny, tiny, tiny forest. How are they going to take those numbers,
right,
and create like a sense of scale?
Yeah.
So it's so when you pop out into space, you get that sort of feeling that there's an infinite expanse in front of you. Because going back to Elite Dangerous, that has a lot more. It has the entire Milky Way galaxy with hundreds of billions of stars.
Right.
But there's nothing to do there. I mean,
I
they're
mean,
there.
I'd
The
say
stars are
it's
there. The planets
unfair
are
with
there.
Elite Dangerous to
Well,
say that there's nothing to do, because every single star you see in the skybox of Elite is rendered and stuff like that, and you can go there. I think more the issue is that, like, once you do get there, what makes it different, special, or more like, what's the
yeah.
point, basically? I mean, like,
Yeah, what's the point of
yeah.
going there apart from a sort of goal that you give to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing with ED, for instance. I mean, there are stations that have certain names and they're named after people, and so you want to go there because you want to pay homage to, for instance, Leonard Nimoy or Carrie Fisher,
Yeah.
and or go see the new Trappist One system, that kind of thing.
Yeah, those are cool things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, similarly, if anybody's seen Star Trek Voyager, that has a sort of like similar thing to it, traveling across the Milky Way galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
But if they did the same thing as you experience in Elite Dangerous when you're traveling from one side of the galaxy to the other,
Mm-hmm.
that'd be a pretty boring TV show, wouldn't it?
I mean, fair enough. Fair enough. Um,
So, what is also Star Citizen going to do to fill that emptiness? Because we want it to feel empty, we want it to feel vast. Otherwise, it's
mhm.
not space.
Right.
Otherwise, as I said before, we might as well be, playing in a forest full of 100 trees. If you don't have that sense of scale and immensity,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be a space game. But
Yeah.
at the same time, how are they going to fill that space with activities? There's going to be so much room for activities, but how? What are those activities going to be?
Well, I'm glad you asked the question there, Billy.
Do you have an answer?
Yeah, because like last week, Star Citizen released in their latest Around the Verse
This is so fucking convoluted, man.
in their latest Around the Verse, they talked a lot about modularity and how they were going to work around the whole map making situation in the game in order to make things and places to go and see not look the same or boring and that kind of thing. And I think that what they have done is pretty awesome. It really is. I mean, like they mentioned before, because of just how many of these like truck stops and stuff that you have that you have to that you will eventually go to. Eventually, you're going to get bored. In Elite Dangerous, I mean, they kind of they tackle the situation by having a whole bunch of different stations. Well, the same 3 or 4, but with different color palettes and stuff like that. But in a game where you can get out of your ship and stuff like that, that's probably not enough. And so they were working on these truck stops, as they called them.
That look amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with this, the way I understood it anyway, what we see here is just one example of what they could look like. And there's an algorithm that will make different stations and different stops. And so even though you might have one of these boxes that we see up here, and they may have, like they may, a station may be put the exact same way as something else because it's by, like Coco Corp, and all Coco Corp Corporation, like stations look the same way. Inside, they might look differently because of these different variables that they've done. And in such a way, they'll make the game kind of look a bit more, I suppose, alive as opposed to cloned and copied and pasted. So you'll have your own favorite stations and stuff. Above here, they have this slider that's going.
That is nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also connected to something that's been
Yeah.
that's always been there, or at
Yeah.
least there's always been promised, which is like a way to create wear and tear with a simple shader slider.
Yeah.
So you don't need all this bespoke modeling and texturing just to create a slight wear.
Mm-hmm. And with travel and stuff like that, I mean, just above here, I mean, coincidentally, there's now a picture of this this ship just going in quantum space, and it's traveling in real time towards a nebula. And I guess I can't speak for traveling in the game more than quantum, but that looks beautiful to me. But with a finite amount of fuel and stuff like that, they're gonna have to be a whole bunch of these truck stops linked to each other. Otherwise, it's gonna be very, very difficult. It's gonna take you days, weeks, and months in order to get from places to place without the correct fuel and stuff like that.
Yeah. But I'm just wondering, well, hoping
Yeah.
whether CIG will create a good enough incentive to actually undertake such a trip.
Mm. I mean, like from what they've talked about, and from kind of like I believe so. I believe so.
Mm.
Just because they have a team of writers and stuff, and it's their job to create this narrative to kind of want to make players go from place to place. I guess it's really up in the air as to how players will eventually deal with just the vastness of space and just how many places you can be at once and stuff like that. A streamer called Captain Flint was like, he believes, or he told me once that he thought that maybe perhaps these systems as we see them, so for instance, the Stanton system that we're all playing in right now, they're going to feel more akin to shards or servers in the massively multiplayer MMOs, where you can basically play your entire game life in that one system because of
Yeah.
how many things there will be to do and how dynamic the quests are and that kind of thing. But and it would be a great undertaking to go to other places, and just judging by the looks of how they're working with quantum and like jump points and stuff like that, I can see that happening. And so the allure to
So
go from
make
one,
it like make it a big or actual struggle to get somewhere other
yeah,
than your own base system.
yeah,
So create a challenge in that.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
That might be interesting. Yeah,
But then
because
again, that's just speculation, isn't
yeah, I
it?
mean, because everybody, because if everybody could just go everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
then that also sort of shrinks the entire game.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
it's like what happened with World of Warcraft, right? Like
mm,
in World of Warcraft, you were walking about and stuff like that, and eventually one expansion pack they released flying mounts. All of a sudden, the entire I don't know like 2 continents became really small, and everything felt less immersive as a result. I feel like because they're building this game from the ground up with that kind of thing in mind, it's not going to feel like that.
mm,
I hope that the verse will feel like huge. I mean, like we compare this game to Elite Dangerous a lot, and
we
yeah,
do, yeah.
there is something called the bubble in Elite Dangerous, as far as I
Hmm.
know, and that's where people are for the most part. And then
Hmm.
there's another economic bubble somewhere towards the center of the galaxy, and it takes
Tiny one,
days.
like 2 or 3
Yeah,
systems.
and it
Yeah,
takes days to get there, right? Like a real life play. I hope that to some degree we'll have that kind of thing going with Star Citizens as well. Like,
yeah.
there are many
So
ways
it's
they
more
can do
like
it. Mhm.
it should be like the fringes should be filled with pioneers like in the old west,
Yeah.
and yeah, but if it's like today's earth where just you can just get to just about every point on the planet by getting on a Ryanair flight or something
Hmm.
like that,
Yeah.
very cheap and affordable way of flying around the entire world, that sort of really shrinks the entire universe down
Yeah.
and removes from its majesty and hugeness and
Yeah. I
sort of
mean,
thing. Yeah.
there are many ways that I feel they'd be able to accomplish this because of the dynamic or mechanic that is quantum travel.
Mhm.
Because right now in the verse, quantum travel is very limited. You'll have a very small fuel tank and you're going from A to B. And if you don't get to a cryastro point to refuel, you're SOL. Well, I mean,
Because
in that video,
there's no actual refueling.
exactly. And that's where truck stops come into play. You're going to need to be able to pinpoint or know or discover, like through what is it, the ARC Starmap or whatever. You need to know where you're going, and you need to chart your truck stops the
Mhm.
same way you chart your stars in Elite Dangerous. Otherwise, you're going to be SOL. I feel like in for the sake of exploration, not all truck stops should be kind of like charted, or for like or like to get to say one specific truck stop, they could actually make it so it'll take a long time to get somewhere else, simply because not all ships will have enough quantum fuel to get the entire way, and so you'll then have to fly just with RCS to get the rest of the way,
Oh,
RCS
ooh,
engines thrusters to get the rest of the way. I
that's
mean,
gonna
I'm
take
just
a
saying that,
while.
yeah, I'm just saying that there are a lot of ways in which they could make it so that distances,
Yeah.
yeah, even though they're relatively the same distance, they could make it so because of the positioning of the different stations and stuff to refuel, certain things appear further away than others.
Just slightly out of reach. Yeah.
Mm.
Or
Yeah.
or you'd need like long range exploration ships, the big ones like
Hmm.
the Carrack, if you wanted to actually venture outside the established traffic lanes.
Mm. And
Uh,
really, with the whole thing about quantum fuel, I think uh, your quantum like fuel tank, or is it engine or whatever capacity,
hmm.
I feel like being able to upgrade that will probably be one of the primary things that you want to do as an explorer, because that will help you increase the distance you can go, and so it's gonna play a massive mechanic or part in the mechanic.
Do we know what is the current stance on actually having your ship be able to refuel itself by harvesting gases from the interstellar medium?
So I know that hydrogen gas is doable. I mean, like that's proven. That's we can see that with the fuel scoops. As for
Hmm.
quantum fuel, well, I have no idea what quantum fuel in Star Citizen is made out of, so there's no
Quants.
there's no telling. There's
Hmm.
no telling. Yeah,
Hmm.
smashing the quants. There's
Yeah.
no telling. Yeah, I mean,
There's.
mm,
Although you would think that, for instance, a ship like a Carrack, which is like a deep exploration vehicle, should be able to be independent in
my
some way.
I think a truly independent ship in Star Citizen wouldn't be, well, fun. Not unless you depend on at least something external. My guess would be like at least, I mean, if any ship could do it, the Starfarer could, because it actually has refineries, and so you could probably specifically refine whatever gases and stuff you pick up
Mm. Yeah,
into
but
those.
then how do you explore new systems? How do you explore like far out reaches of a system
Hmm.
if you are constantly sort of tethered to the nearest truck stop?
Well, I guess that's where your star map would come into play. I feel like in Star Citizen, wait, repeat your question because your response was funny.
Well, no, no, like so you're not like tethered to a truck stop by means of how far can you get via quantum travel,
Hmm.
so y- you don't run out.
I don't think that they would make it so you would ever be tethered to just one truck stop, because I
No,
think
no,
that's
that's
just
what I
bad
mean. That's what I
gameplay.
mean.
Yeah.
Like y- with an M50, for instance,
Hmm.
that I can't see having like sort of regenerative quantum fuel capabilities. So
Right.
you would need to keep to the sort of established truck
Truck stop
lanes.
lanes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
truck stop lanes. So you can never venture far enough out from the lanes to be
Hmm.
able to not be able to get back and fuel.
Right.
But if you're in a big exploration ship like an Aquila or a Carrack,
Hmm. Hmm.
that would be a major hindrance if you had to keep within a certain range of the nearest truck stop. I mean,
Hmm.
how are you going to use
Explore.
how are you going to
Yeah.
explore if you
Mm.
can't just go somewhere?
It's a good question. It's a good question.
And this is
Um.
this sort of kind of uh, fits into the whole grand scheme of things, like in terms of scale of the Star
Mm.
Citizen universe. How
Yeah.
large is it actually going to be? How much of it is going to be unexplored space? How much is
Mm.
going to be outside the sort of safety bubble?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. For one part, you could probably say that yeah, sure, everything is linked to a bubble, like around like a refueling station,
Mm,
and in a way that contains the players within a specific field, and so the servers don't have to, playing devil's advocate here, like the servers therefore won't have to work as hard to like keep everybody's positions known and that kind of thing. But from a gameplay perspective, I feel like, yeah, you're right. Maybe there needs to be some way, at least for these exploring ships or something, or maybe if you want to do deep space exploration, maybe it's not a one-person ship thing. Maybe
No,
you
of
do
course
need to
not.
fly with,
No,
yeah,
no.
maybe you do need like a Carrack and a Starfarer, and something else so that they working together, that kind of thing.
So, like, if you want to be completely independent, it would have to be like a mini flotilla with
Hmm.
several ships to fulfill um, their roles. You have a fuel
Hmm.
gatherer and a food supplier. So you have a Starfarer for fuel. You have an Endeavor for food, and a Carrack
Yeah.
to map where you're going next,
Yeah.
and several carriers with fighters for defense and stuff like that.
Hmm. Well,
That
when I think about,
mm,
sorry, go on.
that would actually be an amazing end
Mm.
goal sort of
Yeah.
gameplay for an organization if they could
Hmm.
like completely detach themselves from the
Hmm.
UEE. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and just
When,
go
when when
live
I
on their
think
own.
about
That would
Yeah,
be
when I think about like large scale exploration, that's what I think about. I think about Battlestar Galactica season 1, where like they're all migratory and they're all together and they're timing their jumps together, and there are a whole bunch of different ships from like, command ships to prison ships, and they're all working together to stay alive
Mm.
and keep moving. I feel like that's kind of what you would need to do if you really wanted to get the most out of exploration. You'd need like an Endeavor to grow your space weed. You'd need Starfarers so all the ships keep refueled and stuff like that.
Mm.
And I guess you would probably just need a good radar or like some thing so you know where you're going,
Right.
where you're headed. I
Mm.
mean, like it would be silly to, now we think about it, to keep players localized within bubbles, as we said, with the fueling stations, but I
Mm.
guess we'll have to see how that works.
So you don't think there'll be a sort of concept like in Star Trek where you have a single spaceship that just can go on for months and months into the
I mean, like,
unknown, gathering its own fuel and means to
yeah.
survive along the way.
I mean, but with Star Trek or whatever, and or with other like space games, when you're going in a straight line, you don't need to continually burn quantum fuel to keep going. Whereas in Star Citizen, you
Mm.
do. I mean, now that I'm thinking about how do you work the whole fuel thing, I mean, for instance, the Starfarer has its own fuel tank, and then it has those 6 tanks outside. If you're going to land on a space station, yes, sure, you can collect stuff and then bring it to a station to sell. But what about going to a station and collecting 6 full tanks full of quantum fuel? That's going to increase the distance you're going to be able to go. Correct?
Do that? Yeah, they would. Yeah,
Mm.
by about 600%, I'd say.
Depends how big the Starfarer's
Yeah,
quantum
yeah.
fuel tank is in the first place.
I,
Yeah.
I would say they are much larger than the Starfarer's internal tank.
Yes,
Hmm.
I would say so.
But anyway,
What was that? You just like kind of paused. Like,
yeah, I know. The conversation just came to an abrupt halt, and I had no idea where to go next. Um, yeah, this whole massiveness of the Star Citizen
mm.
universe. Well, we don't even
Hmm.
know. Or do we? Do we know where it is? Like,
What do you
well,
mean
we have
where
the,
it
we have we
is?
have the star map
Mm-hmm.
with its 100 systems.
Yeah.
Does anybody know where they fit in the universe?
Everywhere, right? Like that's the whole thing about the jump points. You can literally have the systems you go to anywhere. For instance, you can't go to Proxima Centauri in Star Citizen because there's no jump point going
Yeah,
there.
I
But you
know, I
can go
know, I
like,
know. But
mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what I was wondering. Are these
Yeah.
systems neighboring systems, or are they sort of spread out along the entire galaxy, or are
I
they
believe
even
they're
in
spread
different
out.
galaxies?
I don't think they're in different galaxies, and I'll pull it up. Star map, right?
Yeah. I've been looking at that thing, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
googling for information about it. I've come out dry, man. There's absolutely nothing, no information that anchors the known explored universe of Star Citizen
Mm-hmm.
in real life, sort of known space.
Right.
Because we have like a Centauri system. I think it's a Centauri system.
Mm-hmm.
but it's nowhere near. It's impossible for it to be Alpha Centauri.
Right.
But we also don't have any systems that we know now, like I said, Alpha Centauri and Wolf 359 and Gliese and Betelgeuse,
Mm-hmm.
and all those systems are just missing. Have they been renamed, or are they just not accessible, or what? Or is it a completely different sort of parallel universe where they haven't been named the same way? Or just this has been bothering me ever since the star map was first introduced. And I can't tell you how much has been bothering me just because I can't pinpoint where Star Citizen is taking place.
You do look pretty bothered there, dude.
Well, we know we have the Sol system. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
we don't have much else. And I've been trying to get information on that. I just can't, man. I just can't.
Yeah, I suppose maybe they might not even have an answer. Like, you're gonna have to forgive me for this image of the star map that I have here, but I have certain tabs that are zoomed out, and so the star map is actually suffering for it.
It's okay.
But you can't actually tell. You can't actually tell, like you mentioned. You can't actually tell unless, like, they actually have the constellation, the stellar constellations here.
It could be it's just a
Accurately.
placeholder for now.
It could be. It could be
Until
but,
they completely
yeah.
figure it out. And then the backdrop for the star map is going to be discernible, I suppose. And people with a lot
Maybe.
more time on their hands, a lot more knowledge on their hands than me, will be able to figure out exactly where these systems are.
Yeah.
I look forward to that day.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of, so, I guess that's one aspect of, I guess, what we're talking about here with Star Citizen, which is scale in the verse and how that kind of stuff
It would
works.
help. It would help to know.
Yeah.
Because if it's
So
just neighboring
depth of scale,
systems, and the near, and if we take like the closest system in the star map is actually Alpha Centauri, and then you can sort of extrapolate. It's just a tiny bit of the galaxy.
Yeah.
That the Star Citizen explored universe makes. But if it's the entire galaxy, or if actually some systems are actually in other galaxies.
I don't think, well, apart from the Sol system, are there any other systems in the star map that are actually corresponding to star systems? In that case, we will never know. Unless eventually they update it so, they're just random points on the galaxy or in the local group, but we'll just never know. But it's interesting, though. It is interesting. But I mean, that's just one part of scale, exploration and going places. But I suppose another thing that's, it's a bit closer to home, I suppose, is missions and how they will work and how they will make the game feel richer and deeper. So you don't even need to feel the need to move.
Yeah, just
travel,
like in real life, because
explore.
there's millions of people who never leave their hometown.
Exactly. You're born there and that's it, So that, I guess, moves us on to the dynamic questing system that they've talked about. So again, we draw many parallels to the development of Star Citizen to existing games such as Elite Dangerous. In ED, you go to stations, you get a mission, and that mission tells you to go to another station, and that's kind of it for that specific kind of mission, unless there's a random mission critical message, they say, and you have to do something different, like do it faster,
or go
somewhere else.
And,
that is,
or somebody will be sent
yeah.
after you, and you'll get more money if you kill them.
Yeah,
those are the three.
That's pretty much
those are three conditions. Yeah, not exactly deep and well thought out, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's pretty much the be all and end all of those kind of missions in Elite Dangerous. And I think that's where, and that's probably why in ED you're driven to keep traveling, because you're not rooted to somewhere. You don't really feel like you need to be anywhere. Whereas in Star Citizen, with the dynamic questing system in place, if you were to, because the economy is dynamic and supply and demand is a real and simulated thing, and if a store runs out of something, then they're going to need to get it replaced, and if some political uprising and stuff happens, then the quests and stuff will change in that area. A player can feel more attuned and at home to a specific area and not need to move.
I would love if a shortage of socks was all it needed to overturn the balance of power in a system because of like this snowball effect that would happen just because, okay, there was a pirate that attacked a ship and suddenly a
Hmm.
store doesn't have socks, and they
Yeah.
bring out several missions, for people to bring
Hmm.
in socks from other systems or from other stations. But that's
Yeah.
not, that really goes up the nose of some pirate lord who, starts
Hmm.
attacking these new independent delivery ships, and he gets in
Mm.
trouble with, finally gets in trouble with the police, or whoever is in power in that system, and it turns into civil war over fucking socks.
I mean, I don't think it'll ever get that
Mm.
intricate. They've mentioned before that if specific things do start going in a funny way, if they manage to catch it before it happens, then the GMs can actually make more socks, without having to do any
Yeah, hand
quests
wavium.
and that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, so people might argue like, oh well, how do they expect to do such a thing? How do they expect to sock depressions confirmed? How do they expect to make those missions? Sure, in ED you have three options, but I mean, like, we've seen in the last ATV they've actually got like a flow
Hmm.
chart where they have all these conditional things that you can see here listed on the video, and like from the beginning of the quest initiation, you can see that there were two options there, and like from one option you can go down to the next, and if you do that, then it takes you to the next one, and then it breaks into like two other things here, and they have different outcomes, and then they like pull down a third one, and
Yeah, and it's all
it's
cross-connected, and
yeah,
that sort of
it's
complexity
yeah.
does sort of, I suppose it, hmm, grounds you in your sort of little world you're in, and distances you from the rest of the game world.
I suppose it puts your player into his own or her own
Yeah.
narrative. And so what you do may not be exactly the same, even though it's the exact same quest name. What you do may not be what happens to somebody else. I for one I'm for this because with certain games you can go check a wiki and you're like fine, but I feel like the less wikiable stuff you can do in the game,
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
better, because it's meant to be immersive. You're not supposed to, like, if I guess in reality, I suppose if your mom tells you to go get some milk, you can Google where to find milk, but like, you can't ever know what's gonna happen. You might get pulled over by the cops and stuff like that, or you may just go get the
That
milk.
reminds me
You can't Google
of
that.
this animation I saw online a while ago, which is like
Mm-hmm.
the representation of chaos by having several double pendulums with
Mm-hmm.
slightly different starting conditions. And so for the
Mm-hmm.
first few swings, they are basically the same, but all of a sudden they started separating, and then all of a sudden it's just a jumbled mess of, each pendulum going the other way, just because um the starting conditions were the same, and it's the same pendulum, so basically the same mission with the same quest,
Mm-hmm.
but one goes slightly different when the other goes slightly another way, and it just completely devolves into an unpredictable arrangement of outcomes. So
Right.
yeah, this is the sort of thing that you said you don't want it to be wikiable, and if they have a system that corresponds with um or allows for such diversity, no mission is ever going to be the same.
Yeah. Or at least the beginning might be
Mm.
the same. A key points might be the same, and the outcome, I hope the outcome isn't the same. You know what I mean? I mean, like maybe the victory state, the optimal victory state, might be the
Yeah,
same,
but how you
but
get to
definitely
it
not the.
should be completely
Mm-hmm.
different. Yeah, are you going to get attacked by
Exactly.
pirates? Are you going to have not atmospheric, but like environmental hazards that apply to you but not to somebody else, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, totally. I mean, so I guess that's yet another way, like they need to work on in order to give you that sense of scale that makes it feel immersive. I suppose the third way now,
Oh,
I
hey, there's a
suppose,
third
is
way.
oh yeah, I mean, just making things look pretty. Making things look believable. It's one thing to be able to do the missions and stuff, but if where you go looks like the last place you went looks like the last place you went, then it's going to be boring. It's going to be dull. It's not going to feel like you're discovering brave new frontiers and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so with that, I feel like they're coming a long, long way in that. I mean, just from what they've done with 3 Moons, and they look so different in terms of their tile sets and stuff like that. For instance, Yella, they released a new concept image of that. And yeah, you can see from here, it's just it's
You know what it reminds me of?
beautiful.
The Himalayas.
What? The Himalayas?
Yeah.
The Himalayas, more like. It's beautiful.
Well,
it's
we
amazing.
have the title of this week's episode, the Himalayas.
The Himalayas. Yeah. So again, with this and with everything, it's not even just the worlds that they're building, but we saw before with the modular stations and stuff like that. It's not just going to be one type of modular station. They only showed us the one tile set because that's all they had, but they listed off several more. So like from high futuristic to almost broken down Firefly style and all that kind of stuff. It's
So
gonna be
almost like different manufacturers for the different ships that we have.
yeah.
That'd be cool.
Indeed, and then not only do you have those kinds of station or tile set, but then you also have sliders in them and shaders in them to make them
conform
blend.
to the environment they're in, because you could have this
Exactly.
exact same station in an icy, unforgiving icy region, but you have the same station in a very moderate climate, like next to a lake or in the middle of a desert.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to look different. It's going to look more worn down, or yeah, that's gonna
look more,
even though you could actually you could say, well, I've seen that station somewhere else, but no, there's something different. So you go explore. So it's a new experience, and just adding to the scale. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, some people might be like, oh, reversing the layout of a pod might not be enough. But if anybody has ever lived in a place that has terraced housing and you go to a neighbor's house and their house is your house, but back to front, it throws your mind into loops. It's not your house. It looks completely different.
Yeah.
It feels completely different. And that's even if the furniture is largely the same. So I feel like, with this, there's going to be enough character in stations and stuff that you are going to feel
And
that.
it's also backed by how it's artist driven. There are tools, there are procedural tools, but they are artist driven.
Yeah.
So even though the tool can generate the station or the outpost or the satellite on its own, the artist still goes in and makes sure everything checks out. So everything is laid out in a logical manner and an ergonomic manner. So you don't have doors leading right into space, and like you get into a room that's basically nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't wait for this.
Totally, man, totally. Yeah.
A lot of people,
like,
I've been arguing with a lot of people like how Star Citizen has been taking so long. But then, if people could or would want to take the time to take a look at one of these latest ATVs, of the past 3 have been so amazing and chock full of new information. If they could just take the time to look at those, I think they would understand why exactly Star Citizen is taking so long.
I mean, to me, it's not taking so long.
Exactly, it's not taking so long.
Yeah,
it is taking the exact amount of time it needs to. It's like a wizard, in a way.
The wizard of video games, Star Citizen, everybody. Yes, indeed. But yeah, totally. I'm really really excited for. When I say this every week, I'm really looking forward to more things in Star Citizen every single week. I mean, like, I wonder if, and it seems to be, it's been a bit of a pissing contest between the different studios to see who can produce the best ATV. The past 3 ATVs have been ridiculous, so we'll see.
And can I just say,
what happens with
the latest ATV? Aaron Roberts, like, completely bamboozled me. Yeah,
bamboozled with this
with the video. Yeah, okay, like in the beginning of the ATV segment, he just talked about a lot of things that, well, admittedly, the biggest CIG studio has been up to. But so it sort of didn't feel out of place that none of the ships were mentioned, because it did take quite a lot of time to go through everything. But then at the end of the episode, oh yeah, did I mention that Foundry 42 Manchester also makes ships? And there's like a 6-minute sneak peek of upcoming ships, and I was like, oh my god.
Oh man, like a sneak attack. Jeez, it came out of nowhere. I'm really looking forward to all these ships, including the Reclaimer. I mean, I never really saw myself as wanting to kind of do any of the roles in Star Citizen until I saw the ships that will fulfill those roles, and that pretty much goes for every single aspect of the game.
I still don't have any draw for the Reclaimer.
I mean, what it is just space trash van, right? You go and you pick up the trash and you get your money from it. If they manage to make the missions for that ship interesting, I could see myself doing it for sure. It's an interesting mechanic, like, you know, battlefield cleanup duty and that kind of stuff. But I see that, I can see it being very high risk, but also very high reward. So to me, salvage is like piracy in its risk and reward, but without the PvP aspect of it.
I've been trying to compartmentalize myself into certain roles already, even though the game's still years off from being released, and I just don't feel myself being drawn towards the Reclaimer in any sort of way, even though I love the way it looks. It reminds me very much of, for instance, the Nostromo from Alien. It's got that look to it. And it looks badass, especially with that arm that just grabs out and just crunches everything. And yeah. But its role really doesn't sort of mesh with the sort of personality I've started to come up with for my main character, which is, I suppose, a little bit of a throwback to our previous episode where we discussed roleplay.
Oh yeah.
So
don't watch that episode.
It's good. It's definitely shaping up to be very, very interesting.
Definitely.
Anywho, think it's about that time, mate.
We've been running for 1 hour. Yep, 1 hour 10 minutes.
Wow. We're making these episodes longer and longer every time. So anyway, I hope that everybody that's tuned in, both on Twitch and YouTube, has liked our little rambly discussion on the scope and scale of things to come in the Star Citizen universe. I have been Darjanator, and over there, drinking beer from an identical mug as mine. has been Myre. Very loudly. This has been Fortnightly Frontier. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the verse.